I should have known. The signs were all there, but I brushed them off, too eager to believe in the sanctity of our marriage. Clara had always been a fitness enthusiast, and her obsession with the gym seemed natural at first. After all, she was dedicated, disciplined, and it made sense that she wanted to stay healthy. We'd met at a gym, and her routine had always been a part of our lives. But lately things felt off. She started going more frequently, coming home late with vague excuses about cardio classes or pushing herself harder. It seemed reasonable at first until I noticed she wasn't coming home sweaty. Her gym bag wasn't packed like it used to be, and something in her demeanor had changed. Clara had grown distant, almost distracted, but every time I brought it up, she deflected. I didn't push too hard. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, doubting his wife for no reason. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. One day, curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to drop by her gym, thinking I'd surprise her. It was innocent enough, a spur-of-the-moment decision to see if she wanted to grab dinner after her workout. The shock hit me like a train when the receptionist told me Clara hadn't been to the gym in over a week. I stood there, stunned, replaying her recent excuses in my head. She had been going to the gym every day or so, she said. But clearly, that was a lie. Still, I told myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe she'd switched gyms, or maybe work had become too demanding. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But the seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, when Clara came home, I watched her closely. She greeted me with the usual smile, kissed me on the cheek, and asked about my day. It was all so normal, too normal. I didn't ask about the gym. I didn't say anything about what I had found out. Instead, I played along, pretending everything was fine, even though my mind was racing with questions. Days passed, and the tension inside me grew unbearable. Clara's routine didn't change. She still left for the gym, stayed out late, and came home with her same practiced smile. I needed answers, but I wasn't sure how to get them. It wasn't until I stumbled upon the truth by pure accident that my world would implode. It was a Thursday evening. Clara was out again, and I had decided to tackle some chores around the house. The ventilation system had been acting up, so I figured I'd clean it out while I had the place to myself. That's when I found the phone. Hidden in the vent, alongside stacks of cash that, at a glance, looked like they amounted to a small fortune. My heart pounded as I stared at the hidden stash. What the hell was going on? I picked up the phone, my hands trembling. There was no password. That alone was strange. Why would somebody leave an unlocked phone hidden in the vent? I thumbed through the gallery, feeling like I was invading her privacy, but needing to know the truth. And then, I saw them, the photos. Explicit, intimate photos of Clara with a group of men, all of them strangers, all of them Mexicans. My stomach churned as I swiped through, each image more damning than the last. It wasn't just a few pictures. There were dozens. Videos, too. I tapped on one, unable to stop myself, and what I saw shattered me completely. Clara, my wife, was in the center of it all, being taken by multiple men at once, moaning, screaming, while they laughed and cheered. The video was raw, unfiltered, and sickeningly real. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. This wasn't just infidelity. This was something else entirely, something far worse. And it wasn't just one video. There were more, each more graphic than the last, each with more men. 10 Mexicans. I couldn't breathe as the realization set in. She had been lying to me for months. Maybe longer. The money, the phone, the videos. Clara hadn't been going to the gym. She'd been filming these porn videos. And the worst part? She was getting paid for it. As far as I understood from the correspondence, she earned $50,000 for one video. She had 4 videos on her phone. My mind reeled as I tried to piece everything together. The money, the hidden phone, her distant behavior, it all made sense now. She had been hiding this life from me, slipping away to film these grotesque scenes while I sat at home, oblivious. And the money in the vent, there had to be at least $200,000 in cash. I had no idea what to do, what to think. The woman I loved, the woman I had married, was a stranger to me. When Clara came home that night, I couldn't look at her. I couldn't speak. I felt sick, betrayed on a level I didn't know was possible. She noticed something was off, asked if I was okay, but I just brushed her off, mumbling some excuse about feeling tired. In reality, I was barely holding it together. The next few days passed in a blur. I didn't confront her. I didn't say a word. I needed to figure out what to do, how to process this. I was in shock, still unable to fully grasp the magnitude of what I had discovered. My wife, a fitness enthusiast, a seemingly devoted partner, was living a double life. And I had stumbled upon it by sheer accident. But the worst part was yet to come. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. I needed more time. Time to understand how everything had gone so wrong. Time to figure out why she had done this. And most importantly, time to decide how I was going to handle the betrayal that had ripped my world apart. I couldn't stay quiet any longer. After a few days of living in a haze, walking around in a daze of disbelief, I knew I had to do something. Every time Clara left for the gym, I could feel the weight of the lies she told suffocating me. I needed answers, but more than that, I needed to catch her in the act. The videos had shown me enough to break me, but not enough to understand the why. Why would she do this? What had driven her to betray me in such a vile, humiliating way? So I waited. I didn't confront her, didn't let her see the anger boiling beneath the surface. I needed to be calm, patient. It wasn't long before Clara's routine continued as normal. Another evening arrived, and once again, she grabbed her gym bag, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and slipped out the door with that same nonchalant smile. But this time, I was ready. I had decided to follow her. I waited a few minutes after she left, just enough time to keep my presence unnoticed, and then I grabbed my jacket and keys. My heart pounded in my chest as I tailed her from a distance, careful not to get too close. I half expected her to head to a gym, hoping against hope that maybe I had misunderstood everything. Maybe the videos were old, maybe she had stopped. But deep down, I knew better. Clara's car took a turn down a quiet street in an industrial part of town, far from any gym or yoga studio. My grip tightened on the steering wheel as I followed her, the sinking feeling in my gut growing stronger with every mile. She finally pulled into a small parking lot behind an unmarked building. It looked nondescript, just another warehouse among dozens like it in the area. But I knew. This was it. This was where she had been filming the videos. I parked a few spots away, my heart racing as I watched her get out of the car. She walked with purpose, her gym bag slung over her shoulder, looking every bit the part of someone heading to a workout. But this was no workout. Not the kind I had thought anyway. I waited for her to enter the building before stepping out of my car. My mind was swirling with rage, confusion, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. I had no plan, only raw, unfiltered emotion. I crept up to the building, my eyes scanning the area. It was quiet. Too quiet. I found a side door and, to my surprise, it was unlocked. As I stepped inside, the sounds hit me first. Laughter. Voices. And something else, groans, moans, the unmistakable sounds of people having sex. My stomach churned as I moved down a dimly lit hallway. The noises grew louder, more pronounced, echoing off the walls. I didn't know what I was expecting to find, but nothing could have prepared me for what was waiting on the other side. I reached the door at the end of the hallway, and with a trembling hand, I pushed it open. The scene inside stopped me dead in my tracks. Clara, my wife, was in the middle of a porn shoot, surrounded by men, this time all of them black. She was completely naked, her body slick with sweat, moaning as one man took her from behind while another held her down. There were cameras set up around the room, filming every degrading second. It was even worse than the videos I had found. My vision blurred with rage. The humiliation, the betrayal, it was too much to bear. I charged into the room, my mind a whirlwind of anger and confusion. The men, startled by my sudden entrance, turned to look at me, but I wasn't thinking clearly. I wasn't thinking at all. All I saw was red. I lunged at the nearest man, fists flying, shouting incoherently. I didn't care that there were so many of them, didn't care that I was outnumbered. I just wanted to hurt someone, to make them feel even a fraction of the pain I was feeling. The man I attacked stumbled back, caught off guard, but before I could land another punch, someone else grabbed me from behind. I struggled, kicking and thrashing, trying to break free. But there were too many of them. One of the cameramen yelled something, and suddenly 2 more men were on me, forcing me to the ground. I was pinned, helpless, seething with rage as they restrained me. "Get him out of here!" one of the men shouted. But before they could drag me away, Clara stepped forward, her face twisted in anger. I had expected shame, guilt, maybe even an apology. But what I got was something entirely different. She was furious at me. "What the hell are you doing here, Johnson?" she screamed, her voice filled with venom. "You have no right to be here!" I was speechless, still trying to catch my breath, my mind reeling from the sight of my wife, naked and enraged, surrounded by the men she had been cheating on me with. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was attacking me? After everything she had done? "You're ruining everything!" Clara spat, her eyes blazing with fury. "Do you have any idea how much money you're costing me right now?" I couldn't believe my ears. She was worried about the money. About her disgusting porn career? "I can't live in your pathetic little world anymore, Johnson," she continued, her voice dripping with contempt. "I deserve more than this boring, mediocre life. You want to know why I'm doing this? Because it makes me feel alive. Because I'm good at it. And because it pays more than you ever could." The words hit me like a slap in the face. I tried to respond, to fight back, but the men holding me down tightened their grip. "You think I care about you? About this marriage?" Clara scoffed. "I've been over it for a long time. This is what I want now. This is my life, and I don't need you or your judgment." She stepped closer, her naked body gleaming under the studio lights, her expression defiant and unapologetic. "You can't control me, Johnson. Not anymore. I'm done pretending to care about this marriage, about you. You were just holding me back." My mind raced, trying to process the venomous words coming from the woman I had once loved so deeply. It was like I didn't know her anymore, like she had been replaced by someone cold, calculating, and completely detached from any sense of morality. "I've made more money in the past few months than you've ever made in your entire life," she sneered. "And I'm just getting started. You can either accept it, or get the hell out of my way." Before I could respond, one of the men nodded toward the door. "You heard her, man. Time for you to go." They released me, shoving me toward the exit. My body trembled with rage, humiliation, and heartbreak. As I staggered toward the door, I cast one last glance back at Clara, hoping to see some flicker of remorse, some sign that the woman I had married was still in there somewhere. But all I saw was cold indifference. "You're pathetic," she called after me, her voice echoing in the empty hallway as I stumbled out of the studio. "Just stay out of my life, Johnson. We're done." The door slammed shut behind me, leaving me alone in the cold night air. The weight of everything that had just happened crashed down on me, and I sank to the ground, my head in my hands. I had come here for answers, but all I had found was more pain, more betrayal. My wife, the woman I had loved, the woman I had built my life with, was gone. And in her place was a stranger I no longer recognized. I drove home in silence, the images of Clara's betrayal burned into my mind. My knuckles were white as I gripped the steering wheel, still shaking from the encounter. I couldn't believe how cold and dismissive she had been. Her words echoed in my head, her sneering face, her naked body flaunting what she had done as if it were a victory. The rage that had surged through me in that studio hadn't subsided. If anything, it grew stronger. Clara had taken everything from me, my trust, my love, my sense of stability, and she had thrown it all away for some twisted thrill, for money. She didn't even care that she had destroyed me. I couldn't let her get away with it. I couldn't just walk away, not after everything. As I pulled into the driveway of our home, the home we had built together, I felt a grim sense of determination rising within me. If she thought she could humiliate me, destroy our marriage, and walk away scot-free, she was wrong. This wasn't over. The house was quiet when I stepped inside, still smelling faintly of her perfume. I hated it now. I hated everything that reminded me of her. But I needed to stay calm. The rage boiling inside me was like a fire, but I knew I had to be smart. Clara had no idea what I had planned for her. I went upstairs, searching for any more signs of her hidden life. I didn't know what I was looking for, but after finding the phone and money in the vent, I was sure there were more secrets lurking in this house. I headed for the closet where Clara kept her paperwork. She was organized to a fault, so if there was anything incriminating, it would be here. I began rifling through the drawers, tossing aside old bank statements and tax returns, until I hit something that caught my attention. A stack of papers, neatly folded and held together by a paperclip, buried under a pile of nondescript documents. My pulse quickened as I unfolded them, and what I found made my blood run cold. The first document was a contract, Clara's contract. It detailed her involvement with the production company she had been filming for. But that wasn't the worst part. My eyes scanned the fine print, and there, in black and white, was a clause that stated she had no right to publish or distribute any of her intimate photos or videos until the end of the year. If she violated that clause, she would be fined $250,000 and immediately fired from her contract. I sat down, stunned. Clara had been lying to me for months, but even her new life was built on a lie. She hadn't told me about the money, the videos, or this contract. She was hiding it all. The thought crossed my mind that she must have been planning something, waiting for the right moment to reveal her stash, her new life, maybe even divorce me once the contract ended. She'd probably planned to take her money and leave me behind, penniless and broken. Not on my watch. The next document I found was even more damning. It was a detailed breakdown of her income from the porn industry. Clara had been earning obscene amounts of money. Each video she filmed paid her around $50,000, just like I had suspected. But there were more numbers: monthly payments, sponsorship deals, side jobs, all of it adding up to a staggering total. She had been making well over $200,000 in the last few months alone. And she hadn't said a word. Not one word. I had no idea we had this kind of money sitting under our roof. Instead, she had hidden it, hoarding it for herself, probably waiting for the right moment to walk away and leave me with nothing. My mind raced with possibilities. I could expose her. I could use these documents, the contract, the money trail, and ruin her entire career. If I timed it right, I could make sure she violated the contract, forcing her to pay the $250,000 penalty and getting her fired. She would lose everything, just like she had made me lose everything. I would make sure of it. The realization that I had the power to destroy her was intoxicating. Clara had humiliated me, reduced me to nothing in that studio, and now I had the tools to take everything away from her. My hands trembled as I held the documents, imagining the look on her face when she realized what I had done. But this wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice. Clara had chosen this path, and now she would suffer the consequences. I would make sure of it. The next step was simple. I took photos of every document, making sure I had copies of everything: her contract, the income statements, even the clause about the penalty. I wasn't going to confront her right away. No, I would wait. I would wait for the right moment, just like she had been waiting to reveal her dirty little secret. But I wasn't going to wait long. I had spent enough time living in the dark, being played for a fool. Clara might have thought she could get away with everything, but she didn't realize who she was dealing with now. I wasn't the same man who had watched her walk out the door every night, believing her lies. I was someone else now, someone determined to take back control of his life. I stood up, my resolve solidifying. Clara's time was running out, and she had no idea. I would play the part of the clueless husband a little longer, watching her every move, gathering as much information as I could. And when the time was right, I would strike. Hard. She thought she had won. She thought she could throw away our marriage like it was nothing, all for a quick thrill and some cash. But I was going to make sure she paid the price. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming what was mine. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the phone in my hand, the one I'd found hidden in the vent. The videos were still there, every humiliating, degrading moment Clara had recorded of herself. I'd watched them too many times now, each viewing solidifying my rage. And the photos, graphic and explicit, of her with different men, all of it was proof of what she had done, what she had become. For days I had been planning my move, carefully waiting for the right moment. Clara had no idea what was coming, still living her life as if nothing had changed, as if I hadn't seen the truth. She went out for her gym sessions, and came back with that fake smile, acting like she still cared, still loved me. But I knew better now. I saw her for what she was, someone who had thrown away our marriage, our trust, for a cheap thrill and a few dollars. Tonight was the night. I had prepared everything. The photos, the videos, the documents, I had them all backed up and ready to be sent. Clara thought she could keep this hidden, thought she could play me for a fool. But now, the world would know. Her friends, her family, even her employers, everyone would see the truth. My finger hovered over the send button. With one press, it would all go live. A part of me hesitated for a moment, questioning whether this was too far. But then I remembered her face, the way she had looked at me in that studio, full of contempt, mocking me, belittling me. I remembered her venomous words, how she had flaunted her betrayal in front of me. No, this was justice. I pressed the button. Within seconds, the explicit photos and videos were uploaded to multiple platforms. I didn't stop there. I sent the files directly to her gym buddies, her coworkers, even her boss. Everyone was about to find out who Clara really was. The wife they thought they knew was about to be exposed for the lying, cheating woman she had become. I leaned back, a twisted sense of satisfaction settling in. It was done. There was no going back now. Clara came home late that night, as usual. I was sitting in the living room, waiting for her, my eyes fixed on the TV, though I wasn't really watching. I was waiting. She walked in, humming to herself, but the moment she saw my expression, she froze. Something in her posture stiffened, like she could sense the shift in the air. "What's wrong?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but there was a sharp edge to her voice. She knew something was off. I didn't answer. I just watched her as she slipped off her coat and tossed her gym bag onto the floor. The tension between us was thick, palpable, and I could see her growing more uneasy with every passing second. "You're quiet," she said, her eyes narrowing. "What's going on?" I stood up, still silent, and walked toward her. She stepped back instinctively, a flicker of fear crossing her face. She was catching on. Something was very wrong. "Have you checked your phone today?" I asked, my voice cold and flat. Clara's hand flew to her purse, fumbling for her phone. She pulled it out, her fingers shaking as she unlocked the screen. I watched her face as she scrolled through the notifications. Her eyes widened in horror as the reality of what had happened hit her. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What did you do?" I didn't respond right away. I wanted her to feel it, to feel the fear, the panic, the realization that her entire life had just unraveled. She scrolled faster, her breaths coming in short gasps as she saw the messages, the calls, the barrage of notifications from people who had seen everything. The videos, the photos, her entire dirty secret was now out in the open for the world to see. "You bastard!" Clara screamed, her face twisting with fury as she looked up at me. "What the fuck did you do?" "I did what you deserve," I replied calmly, my voice devoid of any emotion. "Everyone knows now, Clara. Everyone knows who you really are." Her eyes burned with hatred, and in an instant she launched herself at me, shoving me with all her strength. "You piece of shit! How dare you! How fucking dare you!" I stumbled back, barely managing to stay on my feet as she came at me again, her fists pounding against my chest. "You've ruined everything! You've destroyed my life!" "I ruined everything?" I shouted, finally losing the calm I had been holding on to. You're the one who destroyed us! You're the one who lied, cheated, and sold yourself for money! Don't you dare put this on me! Clara's face contorted with rage as she shoved me again, her voice a high-pitched scream. You don't understand anything! I was doing this for us. For our future. I laughed bitterly. For us? You were fucking strangers on camera for money, Clara. Don't pretend this was about us. It was! She yelled, her voice cracking. You're so fucking pathetic, you couldn't give me what I needed. I couldn't live in this boring, miserable life with you anymore. You were dragging me down, Johnson. I needed more. I deserved more. I felt my blood boil as her words hit me like a slap to the face. So, you thought the solution was to become a porn star? To fuck random men and hide it from me? You think that's what you deserved? She sneered at me, her lip curling in disgust. Yes. I do. You couldn't provide for me, so I found a way to do it myself. And guess what? I was fucking good at it. I clenched my fists, the anger inside me threatening to explode. And now everyone knows. Everyone knows the truth about you. Your boss, your friends, your family, they've all seen what you've become. How does it feel, Clara? How does it feel to lose everything? She stepped closer, her voice dripping with venom. You think you've won? You think you've destroyed me? You've done nothing but prove how weak you are. I'll bounce back from this. I always do. But you? You'll always be the sad, pathetic man who couldn't even keep his own wife satisfied. My vision blurred with fury. I lunged at her, grabbing her by the shoulders and shaking her. You've ruined us, Clara! You've ruined everything! She struggled against me, her nails digging into my arms as she fought to break free. Let go of me! You're nothing to me now. Nothing! I shoved her away, my chest heaving as I tried to calm myself. She stumbled back, glaring at me with pure hatred in her eyes. This isn't over, she hissed. You'll regret this, Johnson. I swear to God, you'll fucking regret it. I stood there, watching her storm out of the room, her threats hanging in the air like a dark cloud. She was right about one thing: this wasn't over. But I wasn't the one who would regret it. She had destroyed our marriage, destroyed everything we had built together. And now, she was going to face the consequences. As the door slammed shut behind her, I collapsed onto the couch, the adrenaline draining from my body. My hands were still shaking, my mind racing with everything that had just happened. I had exposed her, ruined her secret life, and she had lashed out with all the venom she had left. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Clara had made her choices, and now she would have to live with them. The house was eerily silent after Clara stormed out. The confrontation had left a bitter, almost toxic atmosphere lingering in the air. I sat there for what felt like hours, my heart still racing from the argument, the tension clinging to me like a second skin. It was done. I had exposed her, laid her betrayal bare for the world to see. And yet, something gnawed at me, something I couldn't quite place. Clara's parting words echoed in my head. You'll regret this, Johnson. I swear to God, you'll fucking regret it. I should have felt victorious. I had hit back in the only way I knew how, by destroying the life she had built behind my back. But her rage, her confidence in that last threat, it unnerved me. What more could she do to me? What did she mean by that? I barely slept that night, haunted by thoughts of our fight, replaying her venomous words over and over. My mind kept circling back to the idea that this wasn't over, that Clara had more cards to play. But I had exposed her. How could she possibly retaliate? With every thought, the rage inside me flared up again. She had no power left. I had taken it all away. Or so I thought. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing incessantly. Bleary-eyed, I reached over to check it. Dozens of notifications flooded my screen: messages, emails, missed calls. I blinked, trying to make sense of it. Who the hell was blowing up my phone this early? As I scrolled through the texts, my stomach dropped. Dude, is this for real? Johnson, you need to see this. Now, Man, what the fuck is going on with you and Clara? Check your email. This is insane. My hands trembled as I opened my email app, unsure of what to expect. And then I saw it. There, in my inbox, were dozens of emails from various people, friends, coworkers, even distant acquaintances, all linking to the same thing, explicit videos and photos of me. My mind raced as I frantically clicked one of the links, my heart pounding in my chest. What I saw on the screen froze me in place. It was a video of me, naked, in the most intimate moments of our marriage. Videos Clara had clearly filmed without me knowing. Private moments that I had never imagined anyone else would see. And now, they were everywhere. It hit me like a freight train. Clara had turned the tables. Somehow, in the midst of all my plotting and revenge, she had prepared her own weapon. She had uploaded our intimate videos, the ones I never knew she had taken, and spread them across the internet. Every email, every text, every notification was a link to my humiliation. Just like I had exposed her, she had now exposed me. I sat there, stunned, my mind struggling to process what had just happened. Clara had gotten the last laugh. She had waited until I made my move, and then she had struck back with even more force. I had thought I was in control, thought I was the one pulling the strings, but in reality, she had been one step ahead. I should have seen it coming. The phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. I stared at the screen for a moment, dread pooling in my stomach when I saw the name, David, my boss. Shit. I answered the call, my voice shaky. Hello, Johnson, what the hell is going on? David's voice was sharp, demanding. I just got off the phone with HR. I don't know how else to say this, but we need to talk. You need to come into the office now. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. I can explain. Save it for when you get here. David snapped. This is serious. People are seeing things they shouldn't be seeing. You're in deep shit. The line went dead. I sat there, paralyzed. The weight of what had just happened settled on me like a crushing boulder. My mind spun out of control. This was Clara's revenge. She hadn't just destroyed me in the eyes of our friends, she had gone for the jugular. My job, my reputation, everything was on the line now. I stood up, pacing the room, trying to think. What was I supposed to do? How could I fix this? How could I fight back? But before I could gather my thoughts, the front door burst open. Clara stormed into the house, her face red with fury, eyes wild with a mix of rage and satisfaction. You didn't think I'd just take that lying down, did you? She spat, her voice dripping with venom. You thought you could ruin my life and walk away without consequences? You filmed me? I shot back, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. You fucking filmed me without telling me? Clara laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Oh, grow up, Johnson. You thought you were so clever, exposing me like that. You thought you could humiliate me and walk away with your little victory. Well, guess what? It's my turn now. You've gone too far, Clara. I growled, stepping toward her. You think this is funny? You've destroyed both of us, I've destroyed you. She corrected, her eyes blazing with hatred. You couldn't handle the fact that I was doing something better than you. You couldn't stand that I was making money, living a life you were too small-minded to understand. So, you took your little revenge. Well, now you get to see what real revenge looks like. My hands clenched into fists as I glared at her. You think this is over? You think I'm going to let you get away with this? Clara took a step closer, her face inches from mine. You don't have a choice. You're finished, Johnson. No one's going to see you as the victim anymore. They're going to see you as the pathetic husband who tried to ruin his wife because he couldn't handle the truth. I could feel the rage boiling over. I grabbed her by the arms, shaking her as the words poured out of me. You ruined everything. Our marriage, our life, everything we built together. You destroyed it for money, for strangers, for what? This is what you wanted? Clara shoved me back, her eyes narrowing into slits. I didn't destroy anything. You were the one who wasn't enough. You think I was happy? You think I wanted to stay in this dead-end marriage with you forever? My vision blurred with fury. Then why didn't you just leave, Clara? Why drag us both through this hell? Because, she hissed, I wanted to make sure you felt every ounce of pain you made me feel. I wanted you to suffer, to be humiliated like I was. I staggered back, trying to catch my breath, trying to wrap my head around her words. This wasn't just a game to her. This was war. And in her mind, she had already won. But I wasn't done fighting. Not yet. Clara stormed out of the house after our explosive confrontation, leaving me standing there, breathless and shaken. The reality of what she had done was beginning to sink in. My phone buzzed again, the torrent of messages and notifications relentless. Each new alert was a fresh reminder that my world was unraveling, and fast. The explicit videos of me, the private moments she had exposed, they were everywhere now. Clara's revenge had been swift and brutal, and it had hit me where it hurt most, my reputation. I knew I couldn't avoid it any longer. My job was on the line, my entire career in jeopardy. If I didn't face this head-on, it would all slip through my fingers. I needed to act. Clara might have thought she'd won this battle, but I wasn't about to roll over and let her destroy what little I had left. I grabbed my jacket and headed out the door, my mind racing with a million thoughts. I had to face David at the office, explain the situation if that was even possible, and try to salvage what was left of my job. As I drove, I replayed everything that had happened over the past few weeks. Clara's lies, her betrayal, the videos I had found, the revenge I had exacted on her. It was all spiraling out of control. When I arrived at the office, the atmosphere was tense. The stares from my coworkers were piercing, their hushed conversations cutting through the air like daggers. Word had already spread. Of course it had. Everyone knew now. My personal life had become a public spectacle, and there was no escaping it. David was waiting for me in his office, the door already open. His face was hard, expressionless as I walked in. He didn't say a word as I sat down, the silence between us thick with tension. Johnson, he finally said, his voice measured but cold. What the hell is going on? I swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. It's complicated. David leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Complicated? You think that's going to cut it? Do you have any idea what kind of shitstorm you've caused? HR is up in arms, clients are asking questions, and your name is being dragged through the mud across the internet. Complicated doesn't begin to cover it. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat, the weight of his words crashing down on me. Look, I didn't know she was filming those videos. I didn't agree to any of this. Clara, my wife, she did this to get back at me. She's been cheating on me for months, and I made a mistake. I exposed her, and this is how she retaliated. David sat back in his chair, his eyes never leaving mine. So, this is some sort of revenge war between you and your wife? And you dragged us all into it? I didn't mean for any of this to happen, I said, my voice desperate. I didn't know she was going to do this. I was just trying to dash, to what? Embarrass her? David cut in, his voice rising. And now it's blown up in your face. Do you have any idea how much damage control we're going to have to do because of this? People are questioning our company's integrity. Your personal life is now a public scandal, and it's affecting everyone. I slumped in my chair, defeated. I had no defense. Clara had set this in motion, but I had played my part in it, too. And now, I was paying the price. David sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, Johnson, I don't know what kind of mess you've gotten yourself into, but we can't have this kind of distraction here. You need to sort this out. And until you do, you're on indefinite leave. My heart sank. What? David, come on. I need this job, I know, he said, his voice softening slightly. But right now you're toxic. You need to clean up this mess. Figure out whatever's going on with your wife and deal with it. Then we'll talk. But until then, you're out. I nodded numbly, standing up from the chair. I didn't even argue. What was the point? He was right. I had to clean this up. But as I walked out of the office, the weight of it all pressed down on me. Clara had turned my life into a living nightmare, and there seemed to be no end in sight. When I got back home, the house felt cold, empty. Clara's things were still scattered around, her perfume still lingered in the air, but it was like she had left a void in her wake. I walked through the living room, trying to wrap my head around what to do next. The damage had been done. My job was on the line, my reputation in tatters, and my marriage, well, what was left of it? As I passed the dining table, something caught my eye: a stack of papers, freshly placed. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't put them there. Clara must have. I picked them up, my eyes scanning the first page. It was a lawyer's letter. A legal notice, actually. My stomach twisted as I read the bolded words at the top: divorce proceedings. Of course. It made sense now. This had been her plan all along. She had already filed for divorce. She had prepped everything while I was busy trying to get revenge on her. The letter detailed the terms she was asking for: a significant portion of our assets, citing emotional distress and harassment after the photos and videos I had exposed. She was claiming she was the victim. My hands clenched the paper so hard I nearly ripped it in two. She wasn't just trying to ruin me socially, she was going to take everything. The house, the savings, everything I had worked for. And worst of all, she was painting me as the villain. She had already twisted the story, and now she was going to make sure everyone believed it. But there was something else in the pile of documents: a contract. The same one I had seen earlier, the one outlining her porn deals and stipulating her fines for releasing explicit content prematurely. She had placed it there deliberately, like a taunt. Like she was daring me to take the next step, knowing she had already outplayed me. My mind raced as I looked at the papers, trying to figure out my next move. She had backed me into a corner, but I wasn't ready to give up yet. There had to be something I could do, some way to fight back. I wasn't going to let Clara win. Not like this. But then, a knock at the door snapped me out of my thoughts. I frowned, walking toward the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't expecting anyone. I hesitated for a moment before opening it. Standing on the doorstep was a man I didn't recognize, dressed in a sharp suit with a briefcase in hand. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Johnson?" he asked, his voice calm and professional. "Yeah, that's me," I replied cautiously. "Who are you?" He handed me a business card. "I represent one of Clara's former employers. We need to talk. There are complications that you might want to be aware of." My pulse quickened. What the hell was this about? What had Clara gotten me into now? I stood in the doorway, staring at the man in the suit, my mind reeling from everything that had happened. Clara's lawyer, divorce papers, the humiliation she had unleashed on me, all of it seemed to converge in this moment. This man, whoever he was, represented another piece of the chaos Clara had created. I didn't trust him, but I couldn't ignore the fact that he held some kind of key to unraveling what was really going on. "Come in," I said, stepping aside, my voice tight with suspicion. The man walked in, surveying the house with a glance, his expression remaining neutral. He carried an air of authority that made me uneasy, but I had no choice but to hear him out. We sat at the kitchen table, the stack of divorce papers still lying there, a silent reminder of the storm I was in. The man placed his briefcase on the table and opened it, pulling out a thick folder. "I represent Valor Productions," he said, his tone matter-of-fact. "The company Clara has been working with for the past few months." My heart skipped a beat. This was it, the other side of Clara's secret life. I had exposed her videos, but this was a side of her that went even deeper than I had realized. "I'm aware of the videos and photos she's been involved in," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "What does that have to do with me?" The man leaned back, his eyes studying me for a moment. "It has everything to do with you. Clara violated a number of legal agreements when those videos were leaked. You might think you exposed her, but in doing so, you've put her in serious legal jeopardy." I frowned, trying to piece together what he was saying. "What kind of jeopardy?" He opened the folder and slid a piece of paper across the table. I glanced down and saw it was a legal contract, a non-disclosure agreement. "Clara signed this," He continued, tapping the paper. It explicitly states that all content filmed with Valor Productions cannot be distributed without express permission from the company. By releasing those videos and photos without authorization, she's in breach of contract. And that breach carries serious financial penalties far beyond the $250,000 fine in her original agreement. A cold chill ran down my spine. So, what are you saying? I'm saying, the man replied, his voice steady, that Valor Productions is preparing to sue her. The damages could be in the millions. I sat back, stunned. This was bigger than I had imagined. Clara's betrayal, her secret porn career, it was all crumbling around her. But what did that mean for me? Was I implicated in any of this? The man must have seen the panic in my eyes because he leaned forward, his tone softening. Here's the thing, Johnson. We know you didn't distribute the videos yourself, but Valor doesn't care. The fact that those videos are out there means someone has to pay. And they're going to come after Clara with everything they have. I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. Clara had played her games, lied, cheated, and humiliated me. Now it was her turn to face the consequences. But the satisfaction was short-lived as the man spoke again. However, there's something else you need to know. He paused, his eyes narrowing. Clara is making claims that you were complicit in her breach of contract. What? I shot up from my chair, anger flaring. I had nothing to do with this. She's claiming you orchestrated the release of the videos in retaliation for her affair. He explained calmly. If she can prove you had a hand in leaking them, Valor Productions will come after you too. I stared at him, my mind racing. Clara was pinning this on me? After everything she had done, she was trying to drag me down with her? I didn't touch those videos, I said through gritted teeth. I found them, yes, but I never released them. That was all her. The man nodded, as if he had expected my answer. That's what we need to establish. Right now, Clara is scrambling to protect herself. She's desperate, and she's going to do whatever it takes to shift the blame. She knows she's in deep trouble. I clenched my fists, my mind whirling. Clara had gone too far, but if she thought she could take me down with her, she was wrong. What do I need to do? I asked, my voice hardening with resolve. We'll need to conduct an investigation, he said, sliding a business card across the table. You're going to need legal representation. This is far from over, and if Clara continues down this path, you could both end up in court. If we can prove you weren't involved, you'll be in the clear. But until then, you need to be careful. I picked up the card, my pulse pounding in my ears. Clara had unleashed a storm, and now she was trying to bury me in the wreckage. But I wasn't going to let that happen. Not after everything she had done. The man left, and I stood in the doorway, watching him drive away. My mind was spinning. This situation had gone from bad to worse in a matter of hours. Clara had already dragged my reputation through the mud, but now she was trying to destroy me legally as well. I walked back to the kitchen table, the divorce papers and contracts still lying there, taunting me. I stared at them for a long time, feeling the weight of everything crushing down on me. Clara had always been manipulative, always knew how to twist things to her advantage. But this was a new low, even for her. She had tried to ruin me, and now that it was backfiring on her, she was trying to pin the blame on me. I couldn't let her win. I wouldn't. As I sat there, plotting my next move, I heard the door open again. My heart skipped a beat, thinking it was the man returning. But it wasn't. It was Clara. She walked in, her face pale, her eyes wild with panic. She must have heard about the lawsuit, about the legal trouble she was in. But she wasn't coming to apologize. No, that would have been too easy. Instead, she marched straight up to me, her voice trembling with rage. You, she hissed, pointing a finger in my face. This is your fault. You've ruined everything. I stood up slowly, meeting her glare with one of my own. My fault? You did this to yourself, Clara. You made your choices, and now you're paying the price. Her face twisted with fury, and for a moment, I thought she might hit me. But instead, she laughed a bitter, hollow sound. You think you're so righteous, don't you? She sneered. You think you're the victim here? You have no idea what you've done. No idea what's coming. Try me, I said coldly, not backing down. I'm not the one who broke the law. I'm not the one who filmed all this behind my partner's back. Clara's eyes darkened, and she took a step closer. You think you've won? You think Valor Productions is the worst thing that can happen to me? I've got connections, Johnson. Real connections. You have no idea how deep this goes. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my anger in check. I don't care how deep it goes. You're done, Clara. This is the end for you. She laughed again, this time with more malice. You have no idea. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. Before I could respond, she turned on her heel and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, the tension thick in the air, wondering what kind of hell was coming next. Clara's parting words, her thinly veiled threat, echoed in my mind long after she stormed out of the house. I stood there, the weight of her words heavy on my chest. What else could she possibly do to me? She had already destroyed my reputation, nearly cost me my job, and dragged me into the abyss of legal battles. The divorce papers on the table felt like the final insult, but something told me Clara wasn't finished yet. For days, I barely slept. Every phone call, every email put me on edge, as if waiting for the next bomb to drop. I had reached out to a lawyer of my own, someone to help navigate the legal mess Clara had created, but the process was slow and grueling. Valor Productions was building its case against Clara, and while the lawyer assured me they couldn't hold me accountable for her actions, I knew this war was far from over. One evening, after days of tense waiting, the unexpected happened. A knock at the door jolted me from my thoughts. It was too late for a casual visit. My heart raced as I opened the door, half expecting Clara to be there, ready to unleash another tirade. But it wasn't her. A man stood there, his face unfamiliar, but his presence unnerving. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark suit that reeked of authority. Behind him, two other men loomed in the shadows, their expressions blank and cold. Johnson, right? The man said, his voice calm but carrying an edge that sent a chill down my spine. Yeah, I replied cautiously, gripping the door tighter. Who are you? He didn't answer right away, instead stepping closer, his eyes narrowing. We're here on behalf of some people who have an interest in Clara's activities. My stomach turned. Who the hell were these people? I didn't answer, but the silence that stretched between us was enough to let him continue. You see, he said, almost casually, Clara wasn't just making porn. She was working with some well-connected individuals. People who aren't too happy that her little side business is now public knowledge. I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't about Valor Productions. This was something else, something darker. Clara's connections hadn't just been empty threats after all. She had gotten involved with people far more dangerous than I'd realized, and now they were standing on my doorstep. The man took another step forward, his voice lowering. Clara's put a lot of people in a difficult situation. People who don't like being exposed. And now, thanks to what you've done, they're paying attention. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to stay calm. This is between Clara and the production company. I've got nothing to do with whatever she's involved in. The man smirked, but there was no humor in his eyes. That's where you're wrong. You started this when you exposed her. And now you're going to help us clean it up. Clean it up? I repeated, dread pooling in my gut. What do you mean? The man's smile faded, replaced by something far more menacing. We're giving you one chance to fix this. Clara owes us a lot. But she's too much of a liability now. You're going to make sure she stays quiet. Permanently. My heart pounded in my chest, the weight of his words sinking in. You want me to dash? Clara's a loose end. He interrupted, his tone flat. You clean up the mess you made, or we clean it up for you. And believe me, you don't want us getting involved. The room seemed to close in around me. This wasn't just about revenge or legal consequences anymore. These people, whoever they were, wanted Clara silenced for good. And they were putting the responsibility squarely on my shoulders. I can't dash. I started, but the man cut me off. You will, he said firmly. Or you'll be next. I stared at him, my mind racing. Clara had dug herself into a hole so deep that it was now threatening to bury both of us. She had betrayed me, humiliated me, but the thought of ending her life no matter what she had done was something I couldn't even comprehend. The man leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Think about it. You get your revenge. You get your life back. And no one ever has to know. They left without another word, leaving me standing there, the weight of their threat hanging in the air. My body trembled, not from the cold but from the sheer terror of what had just happened. I had wanted revenge on Clara, but this was something else. Something far beyond what I could have imagined. The next morning, I received a text from Clara. It was short, curt, and to the point. We need to talk. Now. I hesitated for a moment, then agreed to meet her at a cafe in town. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same woman I had wanted to destroy was now the only person who might understand the hell we were both in. When I arrived, Clara was already there, sitting at a corner table with her arms crossed, her face pale and drawn. She didn't even look at me as I sat down. We're fucked, she said bluntly, not wasting time with pleasantries. You know what this is, don't you? I nodded, my throat tight. I had a visit last night. They want you gone, Clara. They said you're a liability. She laughed bitterly. Of course they do. I was stupid enough to think I could get out clean. But they're not going to let that happen. I studied her, the woman I once loved, now a shadow of herself. What are you going to do? She met my eyes, her expression hollow. I'm leaving. I've got a little money stashed away that they don't know about. It's not much, but it's enough to disappear. I don't have a choice. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a flicker of something pity. Clara had dug her own grave, but now she was standing at the edge of it, and the reality of her situation was crushing her. And me? I asked quietly. What happens to me? Clara sighed, rubbing her temples. You're in it now, too. They don't leave loose ends, Johnson. You either help them, or you run. There's no other option. My heart raced as I processed her words. I had been pulled into a nightmare far worse than anything I had imagined. Clara was running, trying to escape the consequences of her actions, but what about me? Could I really just disappear? Leave everything behind? I stood up, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Clara looked up at me, her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in a long time: fear. Goodbye, Clara, I said, my voice hollow. I walked out of the cafe, the cold air hitting me like a slap to the face. The choice was clear, but it wasn't easy. Either I vanished into the shadows, or I stayed and risked everything. Clara had destroyed our lives, but now, standing at the edge of the abyss, I had to decide whether to jump or fight.